And Jesus said, "Ye shall receive power. After that the Holy Ghost is come upon you. And ye shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem, and in all Judea, and in Samaria, and unto the uttermost part of the earth." Welcome to today's program, It's Really Supernatural, Acts of the Holy Spirit. I'm your host, Henry Schaefer. I believe in the supernatural, and God is on the move in these last days. Let's move into the program and see another chapter that could be written in the book of Acts.
Hello, CSRA.
Yeah, there you go. Hello, everybody. This is Henry Schaefer. This is Gerald Farmer. We are here live in the studios at WCC 99.9 FM. We are already shared on Facebook. Somebody's done gave us a thumb up already, brother, that we're live. That must be that.
It must be the haircut I got earlier.
You must be liking what we, or that's Sister Schaefer.
Oh, maybe.
She just gave me a thumbs up that you made it. So
that's the old faithful.
Yeah, she's going to sit back and going to listen to us tonight. So I want to welcome everybody into this program tonight and welcome in our listening audience. And thank you so much for taking your Friday evening. I don't know where you're at, traveling down the road, going out to eat, or sitting there eating, or going somewhere. But keep us tuned in because we got some things we're going to talk about tonight. I got Tony Myers. He's given us a heart there, and Iris Rose. God bless you. Think, man, we're looking at this here, and we thought about not even doing this tonight.
I'll tell you what, they get all the way in Virginia.
All the way in Virginia, they got a hold of us. Huh?
Yeah,
that's where the president.
Well, that's where he is at, but Tony must be around the corner.
Yeah, he's right there with him, isn't he?
Yeah,
yeah. I think him and the president must be buddies, right there with each other. Tony, it's good to have you listening in. God bless you. Let me share it to another page right here. You know, you can go to Studio WUCC 999. That's going to be on YouTube. As soon as this is over, we'll be posted up there. But if you're on Facebook, and then you can go to Henry Schaefer's page there, and we're live, and of course we're sharing it right over there to It's Really Supernatural, because we have a web page that's called It's Really Supernatural.
How about that?
WCC 999. You go there. We're just posting it in there as well. Mm-hmm. So everywhere we got the word going out, and so I want to encourage everybody to share it with all their friends. Now listen here, don't just listen to us, but go ahead and please let everybody know that we are here in the studios and that we're live, and go ahead and tell everybody, say, hey, let's get on the air on what's going on.
Yeah, and this is actually July 20th. 7 p.m. on July 20th, and that's a Friday. So if you're listening, after the live broadcast tonight, which we're live in the studio right now, but if you listening to us at any other time, then you'll probably be listening to a rebroadcast.
That's exactly right.
So hang in there with us now. I'm excited about it.
I'm coming in here on two wheels tonight. I'm sorry, everybody, coming in on two wheels. Cut grass all day.
Yeah.
I mean, I got an acre
of
land.
You look like you've had some things going on today.
It's 0.8 acres is what we got. I have to cut every bit of it because where the house is located, it's like there is no front yard to put all your trash, leaves. There is no backyard to put all. I mean, there ain't no place to put it.
Yeah.
So you're going to cut it and you're going to tote it off. And then, of course, if you're going to edge your lawn, you're going to edge the whole acre.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Up to the curb.
Yeah.
I got to do I'm going, how big is this place?
Yeah.
And I told Sister Schaefer, I said, baby, we got to do something about this here, about another place or something. She said, this just keeps you young is what this does. I'm going, yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Keeps you young and keeps you going.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, there's a bright side to it.
I guess it is. So anyway, coming here on two wheels. Kind of tired after today. So, Gerald, we're going to be talking about a subject tonight. I said, okay, Gerald, we're going to let you handle this here.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk? We're going to talk about end-time deception is what we're going to talk about. But we're going to talk about it more on a current situation and current things. We're going to talk about everybody's talking about it. So why would we not be the only news outlet or only show not talking about it? But we're going to be talking about some things about Donald Trump tonight.
Yeah.
And whether you love him, whether you like him, whether you hate him, whether you think he's the best thing since sliced bread, and colonial bread and all that kind of Wonder Bread, whatever it is, whatever your persuasion is about him, your ideas about him, he is in the news cycle, and everything he does is in the news cycle. Now, so we're going to be talking about the president. You're going to pick this thing up here for a moment.
Yeah, what I want to do is just read something.
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
I think this is a BBC release, and it says U.S. President Donald Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, secretly recorded his client discussing payments to a former Playboy model, U.S. media report. The tapes were reportedly discovered during an FBI raid on Mr. Cohen's property earlier this year in New York. The New York Times reports that on the recording, Mr. Trump and Mr. Cohen discuss paying Karen McDougal, who says she had an affair with Mr. Trump. The tape was reportedly made 2 months before the election. The Department of Justice is looking into alleged hush money paid to women who claim they had a relationship with Trump. This is amazing. Mr. Cohen, who had not been charged, is recently reported under investigation for possible bank and tax fraud, as well as a potential violation of election law. His lawyer, Lanny J. Davis, said in a brief statement on Friday that he was sensitive to the ongoing investigation, but added, suffice it to say that when the recording is heard, it will not hurt him, Mr. Cohen. It will not hurt him, Mr. Cohen. And any attempt to spin cannot change what is on the tape. In lead up to the 2016 presidential election, Ms. Diggle sold her story to the National Enquirer, which is owned by a personal friend of Mr. Trump. She says the $150,000 agreement gave the tabloid exclusive story rights and banned her from talking publicly about the alleged affair. But the Enquirer did not publish her kiss and tell, and she says she was tricked. On Friday, another Trump lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, initially told the New York Times that the president and Mr. Cohen had discussed payments to Ms. McDougal on the tape. But he said no money was actually ever transferred, and that and the recording itself mounted to powerful evidence. Okay. He later told the New York Times that the two men had in fact spoken about paying the Enquirer for rights to the story, thereby repaying the tabloid the amount it. Hold on here.
So what are you trying to tell me there, Gerald?
Well, what I was gonna get to was the bottom line is that
the bottom line, that's what I want.
The bottom line is that I personally expect this is just me speaking. I personally expect for every few months or so for there to be some type of release dealing with some alleged sexual or some level of business or sexual misconduct on behalf of the president, coming from whatever source to sabotage at least the image and tarnish the image of not only Donald Trump but the office of the president.
Why do you think it's like this? What do you think's going on? When I was listening to some information coming this way, or if you do anything about end time studies, or if and you talking about if you use the word trilateral commission, if you use the word Bilderberg, you use any of the dark, nefarious type things like that, that's kind of out there, that you're a conspiracy theorist. That's what they think.
Right.
But with those people who have studied in those avenues, and some people have died.
Right.
Studying this and releasing information about those secret type of organizations is one of the things that I've learned from that. Just putting my ear to the door, listening to what's going on the other side, is that every major news outlet in the world is under the control of the Bilderbergs. You know what I mean? You could say Trilateral Commission, or you could say whatever, that they are, that they control the narrative, whether it be this or that, whatever posture you're going to take towards this. But I can really see the posture even changing on some of the things, on some of the programs, the programs now, just with the aspect of what he just did when he went to Russia, the Helsinki, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
The meeting that they had together. From words that was said and all these, just a word would or wouldn't, should or shouldn't, can or can't, and misspeaking a word or something. I'll just say this here, is that I preach, and I preach a lot. And I go back and somebody will tell me, well, you said this. I go, I didn't say that. And the thing is, I said the words. I don't even remember saying the words. Do you know what I mean? Because your mind is going so quick that I've said some things that good and well that I don't believe.
Right.
But yet I said those words because your mind at that moment, you got so much pressure or you got so much going on. And someone will say, well, what's really on the inside is what really came out. No, that ain't got nothing to do with it. No, that's not what I meant.
Right.
And I misspoke. And everybody should have that point of being able to have grace to be able to say, no, that's not what I meant.
Right.
And you're taking it out of context. But you're talking about ever so often you're going to hear
some type of release or somebody.
It's always going to be negative.
And it may have some relevance or some something initial that says, okay, this might be a possibility.
So what do you think? Why is that? Is it trying to unsettle? Trying to say
I
this
think
person?
It's just for it's the narrative that involves political understanding. It involves not just only politics, but I think it involves everything that anytime someone wants to discredit or discredit whoever the story is about, in this case would be the president, then I expect for the people who are controlling the media, that is the narrative at the moment, is to discredit him. Regardless, whatever, if it's good, it's still gonna, the good thing that he's done is still gonna coexist with a negative spin to it, to discredit whatever successes he may have or whatever, because it's not only set up to make it, it's not just after the president, it's going after the office of the president. So why would powers in the media, why would they want to discredit the office of the president of the United States? That's a good question.
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
Do they do it to invalidate? They don't do it to validate him. So
no, obviously, they're working against the office of the president because they want to discredit the office of the. Now, people always call him the most powerful man in the world, and that he's leading the greatest nation in the world. So why would the media who live here and make their life and have family members here want to come against the president? Why would they be under the guides to put them in that situation where they want to speak freely against our country and our leader? And that's a very interesting question, because And to me, it all fits, because when you really look at it, the people who are really running the country aren't what you would call patriarchs or fans or in line with national sovereignty or the country being
isolated.
They're more globalist, and they want to shift the mindset of where the power should exist. Because after all, this experiment, this great experiment we did, which was the real will of the people, it's failing us. So this is just one area where we've tried to have what we would consider, the way of the people, and to have good government. They want to be able to say that, well, that didn't work. So now is really trying to set the stage for another form or another mindset when it comes to how we should run our government, and who should run our government, and what style government. So everything is being turned upside down, if you want to say, to the point at which we're having to, reassess, if you want to say that, the way things are done. And so it all runs in line with the idea of order out of chaos. So once we get into a place to where we have on every hand where things are not orderly, people will tend to follow whatever you put out there, whatever normalcy or whatever power that comes up with some type of plan, and that we can say this is what we're working. That they could actually set up a rhetoric to suggest that maybe we can try this now, then that what we tried before was not good. And I think it sets the stage, and it depends on how radical and how deviant we get in our approach to the way our country is set up now. And so whenever and like I said, it fits for me, because I see how, even when I look at the judicial system and the courts and how things are transpiring. Now this is where we really get into the I guess you want to call it not the what's the word I want to look for. This is where we get into
Well, we're going to have to get into it one way or the other until you find out what that word is.
Well, I know I was thinking.
Well, you're talking about end time deception,
right? That's it. That's what
that's the title of it.
Yeah.
It's
so end time deception is, so when we look at that, we look at how the judicial. To me, one of the first things that stood out to me was how the court system now, it seems as though it became dysfunctional overnight. The things they were trusted in and said, this is the law, this is how we should do this, and we follow the laws of the land and that. So now when we look at things now, it all of a sudden, like it overnight, not just with this campaign and this election, but it seems like things are so chaotic now to where before, just a few months ago, we could pretty much trust that the courts could make a decision, and things would just flow with this decision being made, and there not being a lot of disturbance and a lot of sabotage or whatever disagreements or whatever happening. But now it happens all the time. And to me, I have to look further than what I'm seeing on the television or what I'm hearing in the news. I see either sabotage, or I see that we have lost control of our government to some other entity other than the system that we previously trusted in and ran on. It's almost as if somebody else is in the background telling you, you're not going to do this. You're going to do this. And so if you have an entity that can do that, then just about anything they could will to do, they of course they try to stay in hiding, but it's basically like witchcraft. It's like being able to control someone behind the scenes or spiritually through some power.
So what are they trying to? What are they trying to get at? I mean, they're trying to destroy the president, Trump, the office.
Yeah.
And as long as you're doing what they want you to do, it's like being a pastor. See,
Right.
I can tell this from the pastoral standpoint.
Right.
As long as you, as a pastor in the church, are doing what the people want you to, let me just say this here. You do have to realize that there is, when a pastor comes into a church, that there is a ruling body in that church. And they're just letting you come in for a while to preach the word, to manage the things a little bit and stuff. But if you start going against the elders, the deacons, the pastor's council, and then maybe not even those, but the wives of those
Right.
that are in that position, they're the ones behind
Right.
that. Then if you don't do what they want you to do, then it won't be long. You won't be pastoring long there at that church, or your reputation is going to be ruined first in the church and then in the community and all those around. So the best thing you do is go ahead and leave because that's what everybody. But having went through a lot of that, I understand that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But you have to realize that either you're going to do what's right and do what the Lord leads you to do and try to do the things that are right, or succumb to the will of this nefarious ruling background that wants to take us down a road that is not the road of doing right or righteous. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you added that, Pastor, because I want to create a balance between what's spiritually going on and what's naturally going on.
Because that's what's happening.
But it's on my side is I wanted to kind of share about the things that we can recognize are the natural, but yet still we can, to some degree, pull in the spiritual to even better understand what's going on, what's really going on. And so if I just threw out there the whole concept of another group or another force that has another agenda outside of what the true patriot American agenda is, whether it be in the immigration. Well, some people, I don't know where a lot of these people come from and what their rhetoric is and what their idea is, but all of a sudden immigration is injected in there.
And everything.
It seems like it came from out of nowhere. But I know better. I mean, because I kind of know the spiritual side of it, or the power that exists, and what the goal and the strategy. When we looked at, if you coming against, what would you want? What kind of immigration policy would you have if you wanted to maintain national sovereignty?
Yeah, I got some comments here. Tony is just saying it's a great delusion that they're trying to lead us down.
Right.
And Iris Rose says President Trump is a threat to their global agenda. He has pushed their timeline way back.
Right.
And just go ahead and one, Tony also says sowing seeds of discord.
Right.
That's what they're doing.
Right.
With this here. Now, so let me just interject some things in here. Because we're talking about end time deception.
Right.
And we're talking about doing things the right way, the wrong way, and this global whatever's going on here.
Right.
In this here. When I look at the incursion coming from a southern border.
Right.
Listen, I'm getting ready to leave and go out of country. Do you realize how much money it costs me just to get a passport to go out of country? You understand what I mean?
Right.
And then my passport, if it's within if it's 6 months old, within 6 months of expiring, they don't let you out. So you can have a passport, but they look at the date on it and they'll say, okay, you're going out there, but we ain't gonna let you go out. So what do you mean you ain't gonna let me go out? No, you can't go out with this. You got to have one that's going to expire later than that, because we don't want you to get on the other side and not be able to get back for something happening. See what I'm getting at? So, I mean, just to get out, there's a way to get out.
Right.
There's a way to get in.
Right.
And understanding the way to get the proper way to get in.
Right.
Because if you don't have rules, if you don't have laws, then you become lawless.
Mm-hmm.
And you become borderless.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens, you have so many people coming into this country. Then what happens is what's happening in San Francisco right now.
Mm-hmm.
They making the declaration, and because they're voting for things in their communities,
Mm-hmm.
just because they are undocumented,
Mm-hmm.
illegal, not supposed to be here, but been living here and been working in the communities,
Mm-hmm.
that because they have living in those communities and been working there and have children in our school system,
Mm-hmm.
which cost us $15,000 per child
Mm-hmm.
to educate, $15,000 per child, because it's public system, then they're letting those people, you ready, to vote, the parents who are illegal, undocumented, allowing them to vote and make decisions about their community that they're living in, because they say this is the right thing to do. I go, no. What is here? We get into this voting thing, and we get into talking about things like that. It's like there are people, it's like, is it Panama that is a territory? Panama, there are people who live in Panama, and we even have representatives or senators that Panama, they're in part of our Congress. But do you know what's the big difference about people who live in Panama? Is that they cannot vote.
Right.
Even though they're a territory, they cannot vote. Then one says, "Well, I'm part of living here in the United States. I am from Panama." And everything. I says, "No, you're not American citizen. American citizens can vote, and if you're not American citizens, you can't vote."
Right.
And if you ever get past that ninth grade civics class about voting, it being a right for a citizen, and it can be taken away because if you are a felon, it can be taken away and suspended because and then there are certain things that comes with being citizenship. So now you have people who are out there. We're talking about deception, brother.
Right.
I'm talking about when you don't have anything, then all of this stuff can be happening all around us, and the people around us don't. And Donald Trump, what I'm trying to say about Trump, and he's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to say, if you're breaking the law, then you need to be dealt with. And if we can't, and there's so many people coming in breaking the law, we just got to put a border. We got to close the gate.
And so, if it was the thing about it is when you see that and hear that, and the president of the United States is having to go through these battles with whoever confronts him, that lets you know that who is really in control.
Yeah, what
you have to really ask. You have to really start asking yourself, where are these decisions coming from, and everything. So I mean, it screams deception to me. Whenever you have somebody who should be in a position to make a decision on a subject, but for whatever reason he's not. That just says something to me. I don't know how people feel about that in general. But I guess you could call in and chime in about some of this stuff we're talking about. But there is, like I say, I see a great deception going on. We're right in the middle of it. It's going on all the time around us, and it seems like we're losing focus. We're losing ourselves in the midst of understanding what's really going on, and what's being done. And I see it slipping.
So let me just tell you some more things, that I see about, the bad publicity that he's getting and everything. Right. These things just stick out in my mind. Have you ever looked at at Air Force One? Have you ever really looked at the airplane that flies the president around?
I've never seen a tour or anything like that. I've seen it's a nice looking plane.
It's a nice looking plane. Right. But let's do this here for all of those who are out there and they go, I don't think I've ever really saw one. Get on your phone right now and look up Air Force One. Okay, let's do this here. Air Force One plane. Okay, so let's get a picture of it right here. So I got an image of it right here. I'm going to put it up. They're right here on the screen here. You can see Air Force One. Let's get a nice one right here. Y'all see Air Force One there? What color? Look at it here, brother. You can look at it on the screen right here. Look at that big old airplane up there.
Uh-huh.
You see that right there? What color? What color is that airplane?
It's kind of like a light blue.
And who's blue? And blue and white. What
Yeah.
color airplane is blue and white like that? That's not our American flag white, blue.
No, there's a different shade blue.
You know what color blue that is? That's United Nations blue.
Uh-huh.
That's the blue that they use.
Right.
And do you know that that is something that I just realized when Donald Trump brought that to point? He said, I'm changing that.
Yeah.
He said, that color's not right. That gives you a signal of a United Nations airplane color.
Right.
It makes you think that's what he's representing. He says, no, it will be red, white, and blue.
Right.
It will be our color, red, white, and the blue that signifies our flag.
Right.
That will be the colors that this thing will be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, look here, he sees stuff different than I'm seeing it too.
Right.
Do you understand what I mean? There are people, I think, that are righteously speaking to him, showing him that, hey, listen here, that glow, just changing the color of the airplane, you know what I mean, sets the global agenda back a long, long time.
Yeah.
Because now, so you got to realize without that, you don't even know it. You don't even see it.
Right.
Did that make sense, what we're talking
Makes
about?
sense.
And I'm going, well, how long have I sat here and watched that and saw that? I'm going, that's just a pretty airplane, but it's not what that should be the airplane. That would be.
But and the thing about that though, Pastor, when you go down that,
I need to take this? But we can always edit this.
I mean, when we start going that rabbit hole, you can find a lot of things. You can find a lot of things that are so obvious, but we've been told so many lies and half truths
Mm-hmm.
about what's really going on. I mean, if you can look at our dollar bill and just look at the symbols on it, and people have their different versions of what it is and what it came to be and all that sort of stuff. And there is a truth. Just got to get to the bottom of what's really true, So, I mean, those type things, I guess to me, I think in a lot of cases, some people tend to blow off stuff like that about certain truths and things. But I think that's where I think that's where the deception is.
So let's talk about the airplane a moment. Let me give it the specifics.
Okay.
The 232-foot long aircraft features 4 jet engines, each with 56,700 pounds of thrust. It has a max speed of 630 miles an hour. That's Mach 0.092 to be specific, and can fly as high as 45,100 feet. Its range is 7,800 statute miles, though it can be refueled in air in case of emergency. Now, here's the plane that flies as low in altitude over the Statue of Liberty on April 22nd, 2009. Anyway, so that's how that's the Air Force One. And look at the color of that thing. And it looks United Nations blue, doesn't it? All you do is look at their uniforms. The United Nations blue and their uniforms and what they have. And they still want to say, well, it's got the American flag on it. I say, yeah, it's so small you can't hardly see it. It's so small you can't see it.
Yeah.
So when it's come flying into Europe, that's what it looks like going into Europe. It doesn't look like American flag coming in.
Right.
I mean, it looks like jet blue.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, with a big dolphin with a big face on the front of it?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like going in. So anyway, so you have things like that. We're talking about things. So I think about the immigration. I think about them voting.
Right.
In California. I mean, in San Francisco. But yet you can vote, but you don't have to have a voter's ID.
Right.
And really, when they make the laws, it doesn't matter who votes, as long as you can say, I live in this community.
Right.
Whether you're MS-13, out of the country, into the country, it doesn't matter if you're from Russia. If you're from Russia and you live in San Francisco, You know what I mean? If you can be from Russia, you want to talk about it. You want to talk about impacting an election.
Right.
Just come live here.
Right.
And then you can get enough coming here and say, well, I don't even have to be a citizen. Just give me the vote, and I can really affect the election.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting crazy now, ain't I? You get me turned on with this stuff here, I can start thinking of all this stuff going down the road and say, can't y'all see what's going on?
Yeah.
That they're trying to make it so that the people, and people are dumbed down.
Right.
I mean, they're absolutely dumbed down. That when they get out of college or high school or college, get on out. Listen here, they can't even find a job.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? And they can't. I mean, I'm talking about absolutely dumbed down, and and trying to find something on a map. And if they don't have a smartphone, they can't even read a map. If they don't have a map, and if it's not round like a globe, you lay a flat map out for them. That messes them up. Mm-hmm. You got to do it on a globe. They got to tote a globe around them so they can find it on the globe. The flat map, they'll never find it. They said, Dana, tell us about all this stuff. What is the United Nations flat map?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, talking about all this kind of stuff, you're listening to It's Really Supernatural in the Last Days. It's end time deception.
Yes.
Of what's taking place. Mm-hmm. And of everything that's going on. As soon as the government is trying to right wrongs or just bring about our national laws mm-hmm. that we have, then every time that they try to get in alignment with a law that's been on the books, but nobody's been doing it, then Donald Trump takes the heat from it.
I'm about to say something that's very controversial.
Go ahead. Let's do it.
One thing is that's just like with the what's going on in politics now with the possibility of getting a new Supreme Court justice.
Yep.
I'm not real optimistic about it. I want to have
another conservative.
I want to have another conservative.
Not him, or a different one. Or do you
want? Here's what I don't want to happen. I don't want the powers to, regardless of who we decide or who Trump selects, and he can select a great candidate. But the thing about it is, I don't have enough faith in our court system, for the change to really take place now, because it don't appear that they have any power. That's what it appears to me. It seems like they can still, through their narratives, still be able to control the outcome to benefit them, at least until for a window of time to benefit whatever the agenda they have. They have that amount of power to where even though we get the right person in there, we still don't get the full blown effect of what that particular person should mean to the court. In other words, there are certain games that they can play to still get what they want to get out of it.
By not letting something come up
right
to be voted on.
Whatever, yeah, or whatever the case is. And I don't keep up with, I don't really keep up with it to that degree, but I just don't right now to say that a conservative judge will bring about the decisions that we want to happen, in regards to whether it's things to come, whether it's gun control, whether it's abortion, whether it's any of those popular Roe versus Wade, all these different things. I don't know if we get what we want because we got the vote.
Yeah. Well, the new one coming out, Brett Kavanaugh, that's the one.
Yeah.
That they're going to try to get him on.
Right.
You have to realize is that when this type of person gets on the court system, if they bring up things like Roe versus Wade, and homosexual marriages and, different, just things that's in the Bible.
Right.
Now we're not talking, we're just talking about things in the Bible. Right.
Exactly.
That there's a possibility of things really changing. And when you start talking about like that, don't you see the lawlessness in the land? I mean, there's people everywhere that is getting ready to, if this guy goes in, Brett Kavanaugh go in, I mean, he's going to change a lot of things.
I hope, I'm optimistic in ways that, like I said, I know what I like to see, but it just seems as though when we look at the court system now, things just don't jive. They don't make any sense as to what's actually happening. So I just,
Well,
I
we
know
know one died. I mean, one was out hunting. And
you see what I mean?
And he came up dead. And they didn't even do no autopsy on the body. As far as I know, they cremated him within 2 or 3 hours. He's dead. I mean, he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
He's out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't none of this big,
Of course, I remember some talks and some coverage on Scalia. So what's his name, Scalia?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just kind of how I feel about it, So,
Well, I'm just trying to say is that you get people that's afraid, that's on the court system. It's like a pastor. If you hold over the pastor that if you don't do what we tell you to do, we're going to take your money, you're going to lose your position.
Like an extortionist.
It's extortionist. And, it's witchcraft.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's people who do it. They withhold their ties to the church because the pastor is not doing what they want him to do. I'm just talking about, let me talk about the judge system.
Mm-hmm.
And so they know how to manipulate that, to make that pastor afraid.
Sure.
To be able to let him make decisions about the youth group, about the choir director, about this, or to what the Lord would show him that needs to happen.
Right.
But because of afraid of money situation, they're withholding their ties, and you're going to lose people, and they're going to go to another church. You're going to lose your reputation.
Right.
All those kind of. See, let me tell you how I can know what I can speak about, because I've had to deal with it.
Right.
Myself. So the thing is that it works the same way with a Supreme Court justice.
That's right.
They took one out, and don't think that is not a lesson for all.
Right.
That is a lesson for all.
See, we're going to show you what we do. We can do to him. This is what we'll do to you.
Yeah. And let me talk about spiritual lessons. And people don't realize these spiritual lessons that are out there, or these lessons that can be out there.
Right.
Is this here? The Bible talks about that God sent them out 2 by 2. And Jesus did send them out 2 by 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then he also told them in the Old Testament. He says 1 can put 1,000 to flight, 2 can do what? 10,000. Say
10,000.
10,000. Say
Right.
10,000.
Yeah.
Okay, 1,000, 2 can put 1,000. That's why they send them out 2 by 2.
Right.
I want you to understand this here. That's a spiritual principle. That's not a Christian principle. See, most people think that these principles it's a Christian principle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a spiritual principle.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm getting at? The devil sends them out how? Doubt and unbelief.
Okay.
He sends them out how? 2 by 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not you got to realize a lot of these principles and all that we talk about, they're just not Christian principles. It's the law of sowing and reaping.
Right.
The law of sowing and reaping is just not a Christian principle.
Okay.
We know that is taught in the scripture, but
Right.
the law of sowing and reaping is a principle that's a worldly principle as well.
So even outside of Christ,
it's
still going to work. If you sow, you reap.
Exactly. That's the law of sowing and reaping.
That's right.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
So over here, where they're doing this with these where they try to intimidate a pastor, that principle, that law of intimidation,
right?
That principle of that'll work with a Supreme Court justice too.
Mm-hmm.
That'll work with a president.
Right.
That'll work with anybody. Work with your whoever.
Mm-hmm.
They get something over on you.
Right.
And said if you don't vote the way we tell you to vote, and don't think a phone call doesn't come up and say, don't you remember what happened to Kennedy?
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about president.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or it could be the president. I'm just trying to say those kind of things right there. Who's knocking at the door out there, brother?
Somebody's knocking at the door.
Yeah. Do we know who that is knocking at the door out there?
No, I don't know.
They don't have no black suits on duty and black glasses.
I tell you what. But one of the things I kept thinking about was, just like on Sunday when we pray, come against Jezebel.
Yeah.
And then I think about Jezebel, how when you look at the whole concept of witchcraft and how she was able to manipulate, dominate, and intimidate.
Yeah.
Doing all, it's like that's what I've learned is that how a person who wants to control or manipulate or control a person, control others, how they have this the ability to intimidate people, and to manipulate, and then just with the intent on dominating that particular person.
Yeah, you remember what they just happened with Donald Trump and what's their little boy's name? I can't remember his name. Their son. I mean, they were talking about because of what they were doing at the border. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And they told him, hey, if it's kind of like this here. Well, watch this here. If you come to the border and you come across, we're going to treat you just like the law says. So they separate. You come on, that's what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like this here. I'm going out of country. If I take a gun and I get on an airplane and I'm coming anyway, mm-hmm. well, then I can expect the ramifications of the law being broke when I come. You know what I'm talking mm-hmm. about? So when you come, this is what's going to happen. I don't care whether you're a child or not. So here's the thing, is that when they come, these things happen.
Right.
Right? So and that's if they break the law.
Right.
So as these things are happening and these things are being brought forward, that what they're trying to do is make it so that Donald Trump is afraid to make the decisions that he should make, mm-hmm. and it will give him a bad reputation.
Right.
So that, look, that's the president. That's the one who's doing. No. It's the laws that you have already signed into action mm-hmm. that needs to be changed.
Right.
Okay. So he does a waiver, right? He does a presidential. What do they call those things? Pardon, not a pardon, but whatever.
Yeah.
But he writes a document stating that that you don't have to do this anymore. But they still bring them together mm-hmm. and they hold it together, right?
Right.
Trying to put it all together. All along, everything that he does is trying to make it so that it's trying to make him afraid to do these things. So what they said was that because he separated the children out,
right,
then what happens is that you're talking about intimidation and all. Mm-hmm. They said that Donald Trump's little boy, mm-hmm. I don't know if you heard it in the news or everything, that he should be taken away from his mom mm-hmm. and being put in a cage with a pedophile. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? This went out on national news of all of this stuff. And then, of course, you have to hear all of this stuff, and you think about all this, that if any of these things was said at the past presidents, mm-hmm. the person who said those type things there, the FBI would be showing up at your door.
Right.
But because the FBI is in on what's going on,
there you go.
They ain't showing up at nobody's door because they already got text messages and everything trying to say something. We don't want this man to be president. And we got to do everything we got to do to stop him.
Right.
Because that a lot of people would say that some of the highest agencies in America mm-hmm. are under the Bilderbergs.
Yeah.
Boy, he went back there again, didn't he?
Yeah.
And things like that. So, are you scared?
Great deception.
Great end time deception. So here's what you need to pray for your president. You need to be praying for your president.
We need to pray for our president.
Pray for the great end time deception that's coming upon the land.
Right.
Did I take this too far and left? Brother, what your eyes getting scared?
I just want to know is where do we stand? I know where I stand. I just like to know where most Americans stand. I don't, I guess to some degree, some people, that's just how we are as far as our communication. I just don't think we talk enough and really share our real. Some people are afraid to say anything or to say anything say what they really believed. I think that had a lot to do with even when we talked about the election this past election. You and I used to talk all the time about stuff, but it never. And then when you start watching the news, how they would always was saying that Trump didn't stand a chance to win, but I never. And so you keep hearing that was going on as far as kind of like the headlines. People kept saying that, and all the what do you call them, pundits or different one talking heads mm-hmm. kept repeating that he don't have a chance. They had Hollywood people saying he don't have a chance and all that. But I never thought that. I never saw what. So apparently, I don't know where they were getting the information from. And then now you have people saying, well, no one really thought that that Trump would win. And I'm saying to myself, who are these people? Where was this? Where is these ideas coming from? And who would say such a thing when people were talking about it amongst themselves? They weren't saying. I would come across people saying that Trump couldn't win. But now that is the narrative, is that during the time of the election, nobody thought that Trump would win. Yeah, there were a lot of people out there saying that, but as far as the people that were the voters, they weren't really saying that. And obviously, if they were, they must have voted something once they went behind the curtain or whatever. They didn't vote that way, that's for sure.
Russia.
Well,
must have been Russia involved.
It must have been Russia. Yeah, that's it.
Well, you know what they said, that no votes were changed by Russia.
Right.
Any vote cast was not changed by Russia.
Right.
So I guess some people are just going to have to deal with this Russia thing. I mean, I don't know how much they're going to deal with it.
It's
and he's invited Putin to come to the White House. That's a cricket.
Yeah.
See how quiet it is? I'm going, man, they had Rocket Man.
Yeah.
I mean, they had North Korea.
Yeah.
And listen to this here. He's done a lot of things that nobody else had even thought about doing.
Right.
And I really think about they hate him. They hate what he's doing about Israel.
Yeah.
You got to realize do y'all believe in fallen angels? Do y'all believe that there is a one world government coming? Do y'all not believe that many people believe? I mean, I just tell you, I mean, it's happening.
Yeah.
It will happen all around us.
Right.
And the thing is, I believe that this administration for this time is a doorstop in the judgment of God for a period of time.
That I believe.
I believe that. And the Christian pastors they cannot think no further than black and white. That's all they can think is black and white.
Yeah.
And do this here. If Hillary Clinton had been president and made president, that abortions on demand, 9th month abortions was going to happen.
That's amazing.
Do you understand? Now we have the possibility of overturning Roe versus Wade, and that's not saying that you're not going to get one if you need one, but it would be more stringent than having a baby. Just because you did like this instead of like this.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? That you should have been controlling yourself, hormones in check, and because you didn't, now it's a baby, and you're going to take the life of a baby at 9 months, and there's nothing wrong with the child. You know what I mean? It's just an unwanted thing that happened. I mean, that's what would have happened with her. And if you as a pastor can't see that is, the blood of the innocent children cry out to God.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And America pastors are going to be judged for not preaching about the Bible. Abortion is wrong. Homosexual marriage or things like that. Listen here, they're just against Scripture. And the thing is that if you put this type of political system in and you back that kind of political system, it's like one pastor from Africa said, South Africa, who came and preached at a church. He says, "America, you get the government you deserve, because that's the kind of people you put in."
I believe that.
What you put in is what you deserve. So when you have MS-13 running everywhere, you have all the illegal aliens running everywhere, and you have all these, you have no law, then that's what you get.
We have to stop and look at the decisions that we're making and wonder, am I being deceived?
I think.
Am I being deceived? Because, if we know clearly what the word teaches, and then we just decide, allow political rhetoric and advanced witchcraft or whatever to get us in a mindset to where we start thinking just the opposite of what we should be thinking.
Right.
We have to stop and look and really make an assessment of, why am I doing this? How did I end up here? And that's kind of where my mindset is now, is that I see it as like a spell or a control mechanism being used.
You know what it's called? It's called mind control.
Yes.
Now, we who do deliverance, we know Because I look at people, they're sitting up there with the microphones, and they are in the political office up there, and it's almost like, who behind the scenes is pulling the strings to make them think that what they're talking about is normal.
Right.
This is not the way normal people talk.
Right.
And the people said, and you may have a handful.
Right.
I'm talking about a minority. I'm not talking about 40%. I'm talking about just a handful out of over 300 million people, 320, 330 million people in America, and you're trying to represent that small amount as it's supposed to be the majority.
Right.
You understand what I mean? It's supposed to be. So we can have a state that has all this weird stuff in it and let it just move on.
Right.
It's called California. I say that's where you go.
Right.
You know what I mean? With all this weird stuff going on, well, let's go there. But don't just make it be like everywhere in the United States, because that's not the way it's supposed to be. Or like they're doing in Europe. Whatever happens in Europe now, because they put all the borders down, everything that happens there in the European Union, it's all across the Union. And, of course,
if we want to know where we're headed, then I think that's one of the main things. We didn't learn. I think we all need I guess you said a seventh grade civics class, or we need to know, get more involved in understanding of what where we come from and who are we as a people. We need to get back to that, and then we can want to look at a place like the European Union and look at the states and everything and how they evolved into releasing and shutting down sovereignty of and borders and all of that, and end up being a part of that, being a North American Union, and interview the people, the older people, of whether the changes that came about, whether they regret, which is better. Was it better as they had national sovereignty? Because a lot of reports that you see, they have a lot of discontentment about. In other words, a lot of people regret the fact that, in other words, they want the sovereignty back. Yeah,
and the thing is, if you look at Europe, and I always tell people this here, whatever happens, the fashions, the government, it always happens in Europe and comes this way.
That's right.
That's just the way it is.
Right.
So, I mean, I just don't believe skinny jeans started here. They had to be from Europe. That's anyway, let's just jump past that. But let's do this here. So when you see England, Britain, you see them wanting to pull out of the European Union. Brexit. Now watch this here. Brexit. Watch this here. When I say this here, if you watch that happening and pulling out of that union, and you see that a vote and actually come out, you're going to see that here. Now, I haven't heard nobody preach that, but whatever happens there, happens here. And that's just a picture of just one group pulling out, saying, I'm not going to be part of it. Exactly. And that could be easily, as well as it could be a state, or it could be a country here on the North American. It would be like the North American Union, the American Union, that it could just be North America, South America, and USA. And we all be part of that global part that watch something come and say, no, we're not going to be part of any of that. Well, that's almost like what Trump has done. Right. So now I'm not going to be part of this. Right. I'm not going to be part of that North. I'm not going to be part of that South. We're going to be independent. We're going to be separate. And they don't like that. It's almost like a European Brexit. Right.
But, the thing about it is that's just like what we have with the passports that were, I don't know what all changes they've made within the last couple of years, but I know maybe like 4 or 5 years ago I got a passport, and I saw the handwriting on the wall when it was no longer really just a United States passport. It was more like a North American.
Yeah, well, that's with that star on there. Remember we talked about that star?
Yeah, we talked about that. But now that, like you see now, it's on the, it's been associated with our state, Georgia or South Carolina driver's license that has the star, which makes us more of a part of a national driver's license or identification.
That's right. Well, brother, look here. It's almost to the end here.
All right.
We're talking about we finding a caboose, aren't we?
Yeah.
Is that music?
Yeah.
We got to let everybody know how much we appreciate Lee Moore. Lee
do
Moore
it.
Pool Services.
Yes.
Thank you, Lee Moore, for your pool services. Call Lee Moore Pool Services. If you would like to get your pool taken care of this summer, he's going to do it for you. What else you got for us, brother?
Want to talk more? We just gotta, get a focus on what part of the great deception, end time deception. I love talking about this subject, so I just I think the people, our listeners, will be very interested in hearing more. But thank you, CSRA, for tuning in to another edition of It's Really Supernatural.
Yeah, it's been a good one, hasn't it, brother?
Yes, it has.
I don't know what all we got going on here on this computer here, but we're going to ride this thing on out here just for a moment. Let everybody know we appreciate them tuning in tonight. It's really supernatural. End time deceptions all around us. You need to you listen to that you listen to the news cycle. They'll have you believing all kind of stuff is right, wrong. All I do is look at the civics class. Well, they taught us about this stuff.
Yeah. The old faithful.
All right. Well, I've been your host, Henry Schaefer. God bless you. Hey, tell everybody they got to listen to this. It's Really Supernatural. One more time.
Listen to It's Really Supernatural.
All right. Here we go. We out of here. God bless. Here we go. See if I can find this here. Is this it right here? I think that's it right there.
I'm Henry Schaefer, and I want to thank you for listening to It's Really Supernatural program. Now tune in next week for more Acts of the